Hello and welcome back to Survivor LU After Party after a week-long break. We've all been insanely busy, but we are back covering episodes 4 and 5. I am here with, unfortunately, the sixth eliminated contestant, Andrew Einmo of the Maasai tribe. How are you, Andrew?
I'm doing fantastic. I can't complain.
That's good. Okay, so we're going to get straight into it. So it was clear from the get-go, from episode 1, that you were probably the biggest Survivor fan playing, besides, I think, Victoria, who's seen every single season. I think you have her beat by having seen every single season, probably multiple times. So coming into something like Survivor LU, not having any previous knowledge of season 1, what was your reaction right then and there, walking onto the field and seeing 17 other people that you're now playing probably the greatest game of all time with?
Technically 16 because Melanie wasn't there. Or no, Madeline wasn't there. Was Madeline, right? Yeah.
Yes, Andrew. Thanks for correcting me. So
So
16 other players on the field. How did you feel?
so going into the game, during my pregame interviews, I was definitely like, I want to be under the radar. I want to just kind of fly, not make any big moves until the merge, at least. That was my whole plan going in. And then as I was walking up to that field, I saw multiple people there that were all socializing. And then I was like, oh, shoot, this is real. And then more people and more people came up. And then it was a total of 17 people there. And I was like, I can't believe it. There's other people who definitely want to win, who are definitely going to do everything they can to absolutely get me out. I have to do something. So basically what happened is I panicked, I panicked and I saw other people who were going to do anything to get to that very end. And half of it, I was right. There were other people who definitely were going to do anything to get to the end. And then there were another half who were just like, yo, hold on. I'm just here to make friends. I'm just trying to do that kind of thing. So I definitely, I started off the game on the wrong foot, and I just wanted to make sure that I wanted my name to not be in people's mouths, and inadvertently I put my own name in other people's mouths by the moves I made. So yeah, I definitely see the wrong things I did in this game, but ultimately it's just like I made a move. I just wanted people to see where I was, and yeah, that's kind of how I was.
So you're put onto the Maasai tribe with 5 other guys. You have Austin, Ethan, Jai, John, and Shadwick. What was your first impression of the guys sitting before you? Like, were you able to get a good read on them? Or were you like, oh gosh, I might have to not be myself for a second and play into their game? Or were you just like, screw it, I'm going to be Andrew?
No, I definitely underplayed myself in that first initial meeting. I thought I did a decent job at kind of like putting myself in there. So like when I went in there, I didn't want people to think that I'd never seen a single season of Survivor, because I felt like people would just think I'm bluffing, obviously. But I also didn't want to tell people that I was such a huge fan of the show. So I kind of went mid tier. I was telling people that I had seen a couple seasons, and not too much, that I liked the show, but I wasn't like a huge great fan, because I wanted people to befriend me and just be like, okay, he knows what he's doing, but he's also not crazy. So that's what I was trying to do. There were definitely people that were just like on both ends of the spectrum. There were people like Austin, Ethan, who were all like, yeah, I've never seen the show in my life. I'm just here to have fun, that kind of thing. And then you have the other side of like John, who was definitely going in and he said, when we were out there, he said, I have seen every single season of Survivor. And that was like, okay, we all kind of knew like he was trying to out himself. Inadvertently, he outed himself out as this big Survivor fan. And so I was definitely seeing certain tribe dynamics in them. And then there were other people like Jay High and Chad who were like, I don't know where you guys sit. I don't know what's going on with you two, but I got to keep you guys on my mind. Got to make sure I'm watching you too. So that's kind of like the dynamics of when I was first initially put there.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I mean, I can sort of relate to that. I've said before that I relate to you and John the most because we all came in desperately underestimating the scope of everybody else, thinking that there's no way that at this college campus there are Survivor fans here. And turns out there are a lot of Survivor fans, more than we give credit for. So yeah, I can totally see that. So we skip ahead to episode 3. It's your first tribal council. Did you know that your tribe was going to throw the challenge, and did you kind of figure it out later, or did you go in intending to throw the challenge in order to get out John?
So that's a funny story. So what happened is I definitely knew that my tribe was throwing. People were definitely telling me like, yeah, we're gonna throw to get John out, that kind of thing. And they were also telling me that both John and Chad were gunning for me, basically. I was very much in the know of that part specifically. However, because John and Chad were gunning for me, at least that's what people were telling me, is that John and Chad were going, I did not want to throw the challenge personally. I didn't let people know that, but I personally don't think. The thing is, because the dice rolled on me, I had no say. I had to be sit out of this challenge, which was ironically a food eating challenge, which I think I would have been okay at. I'm thinking, I don't know exactly what I would have done, but a part of me is thinking, I don't think I would have thrown that third challenge. You know, I think I actually would have went for it because there was too much up in the air. People were saying John and Chad, but I could only trust them so far. So I think there's definitely a possibility that I wouldn't have thrown, and I definitely would have tried to go for the win. But I was definitely in the know. People were definitely telling me, and that kind of just led to one thing to another. And yeah, so that's kind of what went down that week.
So later that week, it's John who's voted out, but you did receive 2 votes, and you were right about yourself being targeted. You called it, and you said it's probably going to be a split vote, and Chadwick was gunning for you with John, but you guys got the upper hand, the 4 of you. In that moment, the vote is tied, you, Chadwick, and John. Were you thinking, oh my gosh, I'm done? Or did you think, we've got this, John's out? Like,
So,
what? Like, because you had a big sigh of relief once John was finally voted out. Did you have any doubt in your mind that it would go through, or were you kind of thinking they might be playing me a little bit?
oh, I definitely had thoughts of like they could be playing me because like people's words, no one had up until that point, no one had to prove their loyalty at that point. We had all been winning week after week. And then third week was our very first tribal council. So I was definitely in the mindset of like people could be playing me. They could be going against me, that kind of thing. And I think it was definitely like a conversation of, hey, maybe Andrew is just the person we should go for, that kind of thing. So I was definitely nervous, but at the same time, I had to trust in the people who told me they had my back, that kind of thing, especially Austin. Austin, I was very afraid that would flip because I had been throwing his name out early, so on, which, by the way, the only reason I was throwing Austin's name out early on was I was just trying to get a name out there. I have nothing against the guy. I honestly believed that he had not seen a single season of Survivor, but I was throwing his name out there just because I wanted a name out there. So that's the explanation for that first week. But yeah, I was.
When did you catch on to the fact that Austin hadn't seen a single episode? Because one of the big bits in episode 1 was that you were like, Austin is playing everybody. He's seen every single season. And it cuts to Austin going, I've seen no Survivor at all.
I know. So the thing is, it was like half and half for me that very first week because it was. There was that part of me that was saying Austin's lying. He's got to be lying. He's doing RA interviews. He's doing CGL stuff. He's doing Bible groups, that kind of thing. He had all this on his plate, and then he was also doing Survivor, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm just doing Survivor just for fun." You know, it was definitely that thought of like, this dude is obviously lying because who would do Survivor on top of all of that? But as the weeks went on, I was realizing, hey, this guy actually doesn't know what he's talking about, that kind of thing. He's been pretty calm all the way through. So by week 3, I completely dropped Austin's name off my list, that kind of thing. And I was like, his life was now in my hands when it came to John's vote, that kind of thing. So leading into that vote, I was definitely nervous that people were going to like vote for me because I was so vocal the first couple of weeks. But once I saw that Chadwick's name had been written down twice, I was like, okay, at least a couple of us stuck to the plan. And then a few more votes came out for John. And I'm like, okay, now we can like keep everything down. It's mainly John who's going to go. And I was still nervous that at the revote, people would definitely, because Ethan and Austin were definitely wild cards. Jay High was actually my closest ally throughout my 5 weeks in the game, which is not televised at all. Jay High, I definitely felt like I could trust him when going into this vote. Austin and Ethan were definitely the wild cards going in, but fortunately, everyone stuck to the plan, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm still in the game. I still have some time to go.
So episode 4 hits. It's a big tribe swap. You famously call out, "Oh, we just merged." Like, we did not merge. It was a tribe of 14 people, all trying to avoid going to tribal council. The bottom 7 go to tribal council. You're not among those final 7. You win yet another challenge. Now, be honest, do you think you won that challenge based off your own prowess, or do you think you were kind of just put there by default because 4 other people had decided to throw in the challenge? And when you look at other challenge beasts like Idris, or you look at potential challenge beasts like CK, they could have easily had won that challenge. If they hadn't thrown, do you think you're going back to tribal council, or do you think you're sitting pretty with individual immunity?
That's the thing. Honestly, yeah, I probably would have been going to tribal had those 4 not thrown. Well, maybe not 4, but it's a huge gamble because if I can remember, it was like around my time personally was around like 15 minutes or something like that. And the DQ time was, I think, 20, if I'm not mistaken. So I was really close to DQing that kind of thing. And that being said, it sounded like other people and within that 4 didn't try to throw. I think Lily was trying to win. I think Hallie could have possibly tried to win, but Idris and CK were definitely trying to throw. So those 2 could have definitely pulled it out. And I don't know how everyone else's times were because I didn't see everyone else's times. Now, obviously, I saw them in the episode, but that only shows a portion of what was actually happening. Like myself, during that season, I was definitely not in shape. I was definitely at probably one of my like heaviest times. I'm a pretty overweight guy myself. I've been trying to go to the gym. I've been losing weight since then, that kind of thing. But during the time, I was not fit at all. So I think I was definitely going slower. I was definitely out of breath by the end of that challenge, and my voice was a little hoarse after that. But I definitely could have been going to that tribal had CK and Idris not thrown. I think it's definitely a possibility.
So follow-up question, you go to tribal council, is it you who's voted out, or is Haley gone? Like, depending, say you are there instead of Jay High. Let's take Jay High out of the equation. Let's put you there. Do you think that you make it through, or do you think you had enough relationships at that point to where Haley would have been gone?
People want Haley.
I personally think you could have made it through. I personally think you were in a good enough spot and hadn't burned any bridges yet, and CK was wanting to work with you, that I think you would have been okay, in my opinion, based on where I was standing. But I'm curious about what you would think.
Based on relationships at the swap, yes, I think I would have been quote unquote fine. But it would also look like at the very beginning of week 5, I also looked like I was fine, and look where I am now. So I think the biggest benefactor, and if I went during week 4 to tribal, I think the biggest benefactor was myself, honestly, my own actions. I think that my own actions are what really say where I go and that kind of, because relationships aren't just how other people see you. It's how you kind of perceive yourself, basically. So I think that if I had gone to that tribal, I would have had to have taken a chill pill that week, and I would have just kind of tried to fly under the radar, and I think I would have been fine.
So episode 5 hits, you lose the immunity challenge. You're one of the 6 going with Victoria. You're one of the 6 going with Victoria, Lily, Chadwick, Austin, and Sophie. Were you immediately like, I'm done, there's no shot? Or did you genuinely think, I think I can work with these people. I think I can work with these members of Tiwi and these my fellow tribe mate of Maasai, because Lily was the only Kalahari member not at that tribal council. 2 Tiwi, 3 Maasai, 1 Kalahari. Did it seem like Lily was the easy vote, or were you like, oh gosh, I'm in trouble? But I've also got Austin and Chadwick here, so I'm okay. Like, what was your thought going in?
That's the thing. Obviously, there was the obvious idea of Lily going because she was the only Kalahari. She's on the outs, that kind of thing. But I think everyone in their mind was like, this vote can't be that simple. It can't be just Lily. So I was definitely like, oh shoot, I need to work on my relationships. Because even though I had Austin and Chad there was Austin, who I had just thrown under the bus for the first 2 weeks of the game, now quote unquote trust me. And then there's Chad, who I've been gunning for the entire time I was here. Because that's another thing that was never televised, was Chad. I had tried to build a relationship on Masai, and we were supposed to meet at one point. And then all of a sudden, when we were supposed to meet, he had an emergency come up and he had to go home, which I understand. But after that emergency, he made no effort whatsoever to meet up with me up until after the John vote, basically. So I had tried to reach out to him and he would just not respond because he was gunning for me. So like at that point, I knew I couldn't trust him. So we did meet after the swap, but it was just like, too little too late. So that was very much like, it was us three, myself, Lily, and Chadwick on the bottom. But I was trying to gun for Chad that week too, because you also have to think of it as a number standpoint, because so far up to that point, 2 Kalahari members had already gone the first 2 weeks, and Rachel and Jacob. And then the next week was Madeline and John, one person from each of the guy tribe and the girl tribe. So the next week, week 4, was Haley's one. So that means 2 Kalahari people have gone and 2 Tiwi people. Only 1 Maasai person had gone. So my mindset going into this was that the merge was obviously coming up super soon. So we were all thinking merge was going to happen at 12. And if it had been 5 Maasai, either 4 Tiwi or 3 Kalahari, or reverse, let's say 5 Maasai, 4 Kalahari, and 3 Tiwi, that would have meant the Maasai, in my mind, Maasai would have been the highest threat because there were so many guys going into the merge. So that's why I was trying to get everyone to move away from Lily and onto Chad, because Chad I had already not trusted. And if Chad went, that means it's an equal 4-4-4 going into the merge. And I felt like we could make a lot more moves with it being equal playing ground.
So we're about to go to tribal council. You see that meeting with Austin and Delaney. You see Victoria freaking out in the stairwell. Victoria wants you gone. Austin wants Chad gone. Victoria gets her way, which still impresses me because she didn't have too much sway, but then she switches the votes over. Were you surprised watching the episode how much influence Victoria was able to have in getting you out? Or were you like, yeah, that makes sense. Victoria is a good player? Or what was your initial reaction seeing all the behind the scenes stuff that went into voting you out? Because it wasn't you up until the day before. You were not going home. I don't even think you would have gotten a vote. And then all of a sudden, Victoria hears the plan and wants to flip it. Did that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me that Victoria goes for me. Because I tried reaching out, because Victoria, the thing is, everyone was meeting up with everyone except for myself. I did not have a lot of contact going into this season, because you see Jay High and CK had their own Smash Brothers relationship. You see John having like his if he had any. Just basically, there's a lot of like outside. Oh, Delaney and Austin. Those were everyone had like someone from outside the game. I did not have basically anyone from outside the game. Everyone was new people to me, so I was at a disadvantage because I didn't know anyone outside, like any of these people outside the game, basically. So these people I was trying to, but I had no way of contacting them now until the swap. So I tried to reach out to Victoria that one week, and we had a conversation together. Now, just because we had this conversation, it was, again, a little too late. Same with me and Chad. It was just, I tried to make something happen with her, and she was just not biting. She didn't like me for whatever reason. Victoria and I are great now. I'm sure we love each other, good old Jessica. But it was definitely like, I completely understand why she went for me, because she had no relationship Now, it does surprise me how much social capital she had over that group of 5 or group of 6, basically. I didn't realize she had her hand in so many pockets, and I should have realized that that was going to happen, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it could have been that. It also, I feel like it also has a hand in CK. I mean, CK did try to save me that week, but at the same time, I kind of went against CK. So I feel like he also had some form of hand in this vote out as well.
Right. So at this point, you're gone. You're out of the show. From this standpoint, there's 12 players left. You know what happens from a fan perspective, on an outside perspective. Who would you have thought is now in the best position, most likely to win the game, and why? Without giving anything away, who's in the best position to win the whole thing, taking out the next few weeks of the game at this point? Who's likely going to win the whole thing from your eyes?
I would say probably the most likely to win this game. I would say definitely, I'm going to go out and say Austin, you know? I'm going to say Austin. Yeah, because here's the thing. Everyone is making great relationships so far, but people are also making enemies. You know what I'm saying? People, there's Ethan and Delaney were close with CK until CK started doing some shady stuff. So they went against him, but he also has his army going. Then there's people like Sophie. So Sophie is really good socially, which, by the way, something that it's also never televised. Sophie and I were visiting with each other every single week. We had a conversation with each other every single week. It was a single conversation, but it was a conversation. Sophie was the closest thing to a relationship I had from outside the game, because my brother and her were lab partners at one point. So I was trying to, yeah, I know that was the only relationship that I had. So that's why I tried to get with her, basically.
Gosh, had I known that, I might have included that more.
I put that in my, whatever. We'll talk about that later. But that being said, so Sophie is very social, but she's also made an enemy in the entirety of Kalahari for voting out Jacob. So there's that. And then I'm trying to think of all the other high-end players.
Good with Austin, it's a good answer. We don't want to get into it too much without giving anything away potentially, but
I'm not giving anything away, but I'm just saying Austin is he's building up his social relationships, but he's also not making enemies out of anyone. So with that being said, I think he's doing a lot better in this game than I would have even realized, basically. So I don't think anyone's seeing him as a threat right now. So as long as he's able to keep his social capital up without making enemies, I think he'll go far in this game.
Okay. So at this point at After Party, we would show a sneak peek of the next episode. We're not doing that this week. We're saving episode 6 completely going in blind. I'm the only one who has seen it, and I'm going to remain the only one who has seen it until it's done, it's put together, and yet so much happens that I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to give anybody the slightest idea of who's going home. So episode 6 is coming out this Saturday, and the only thing that I will say is merge. And that's all I'm going to give away, because it's going to get crazy. War has started and sides are going to get picked, but I'm going to keep it completely locked for now. I don't want anybody else to see it until Saturday night at 7 p.m. because I don't want to give any indication. So Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for diving deep into your game, honestly. And sorry to see you go. You're a true fan of the show. But what people can know is that after season 2, you pretty much stuck around for the entirety of behind the scenes for Survivor LU. So you've seen pretty much all of seasons 3 and season 6 with as much as we can give you being on the crew. So what can people look forward to for the future of Survivor LU? Because we filmed a lot. You've been in there for almost all of it. Tell the fans what they can look forward to after season 2.
Yeah, I will say that you can definitely look forward to a lot of twists. I will say you can definitely look for some twists are even just as good as like, a one tribe swap. I will say you can also look forward to a lot of really high-end breakout players get out in this game. Some really great players are going to get really far into this game. And then we're also going to see some really great players, make it not quite so far. Some really great players not even make the merge. It's all a game of chance, and it's you just got to base those on your relationships. Who can be your friend and who can be your enemy. What twists you can react to in the future, and you just gotta make sure that this game. If you ever were to play this game in the future, you just gotta make sure that you know a good amount of this game, and then you can thrive.
All right, Andrew. So that is all for this week's episode of Survivor LU After Party. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you next week for recap episode 6.
All right. Wait, you're gonna see me next week?
No, we're gonna see the fans next. No. You'll come back. Right. Maybe you'll come back later when I need, a filler guest. No, I'm kidding.
Whoa, hold on.
We are running out of time to show, so we do have to cut it off. So thanks for coming on. We'll see you guys.
All right. See ya.